West Virginia wins. It was not the prettiest, but the Mountaineers found a way to do it. This is the Blue Gold Sports Podcast. What's going on, everybody? Wesley Shoemaker, Aaron Parker. Let's all breathe a sigh of relief. West Virginia won a one-score game. They did it in the craziest way possible. It was a wild game on Thursday night here at Milan Piscar Stadium in Morgantown, West Virginia. A lot of offense, some weird defense, and a lot of craziness and a lot of back and forth. Aaron, big win for this team. They got back to even 1-3-4 now. As Neil Brown said, quote, the ball bounced their way tonight. And it sure did in a big way. Overall thoughts just on the win, things that stood out.
Yeah, it was a big dub. What stands out to me is it was a crazy game, a one possession game, and it went the Mountaineers' way. Like Neil Brown said, they got the bounces they needed, got a couple breaks, but I don't think it was a game of luck. I think the Mountaineers played a great game, defense aside, and they made the plays when they needed to make them. Whether it be making a tough throw, making a tough catch, or a running back stepping up, and it's all around good effort. Would have liked to see somebody punch it in there at the goal line at the end, but I guess we'll settle for a field goal. A win's a win.
Yeah, Casey Legg walk-off 22-yard field goal. Not a walk-off, but basically hit it with 30 seconds left, something. I think 33 seconds left. So big win for West Virginia. We'll start in the beginning here. 3-and-out on the first possession. Mountaineers win the toss. They defer. 3-and-out on the first possession. Then they go right down the field and score. And I was a little caught off guard by that. I was like, whoa, like, here we go. Is this what it's going to be tonight? And sure enough, the offense then kind of regressed a little bit. Couldn't convert a couple times there early in the first quarter. And then Baylor led 17-7. West Virginia gets the ball all the way down to the 1. And then for the second time this year in the same exact spot, Traylon Davis, boom, false start, move it back. Happened against Kansas, happens, it's twice now. That's a problem. Procedure penalty, forced to kick because you have to probably use one down instead of two down to the goal line. 17-10, Baylor driving right down the field again, and it looks like, oh, here we go again. Going to be down 14, chasing 2 scores. Sure enough, really wasn't the West Virginia's defenders' aggressiveness. I think it was more Baylor quarterback Blake Shapen just dropped the ball, and Jasir Cox found it, scooped it, scored it, tied in the game. And to me, that really injected life and kind of gave that crowd life and was the turning point of that game until obviously the blocked point after.
Yeah, that was a big play. That's kind of a type of play that happens against West Virginia. You don't usually see the Mountaineers return a scoop and score. To be honest with you, I can't remember the last time there was a scoop and score in the Mountaineers' possession. I'm thinking of like Jared Barber in 2015. I don't remember another one.
I think there was one again. There was that one against Oklahoma State where they kind of just blocked the punt in the end zone. I mean, if
the block punt, in 18, but there's what I'm saying is there's not much of that, and that play really caught me off guard. Obviously just Shapen kind of dropped the ball, and I looked, somebody swung and missed on the ball, and I'm like, we shouldn't be falling on that. Somebody needs to be picking that up and taking it to the house. And Jasir Cox, give him credit. They brought him in for a media day this last couple of days, and he was well spoken. Talked for 11, 12 minutes, and he's a very likable guy coming from North Dakota State. So it's really good to see him make a play like that, because at the spear position, while it's an important position, you don't see him getting a whole lot of picks or sacks or anything like that. So to see him get that scoop and score, that injected a lot of life in the crowd.
Let's be real here. Besides the scoop and score, West Virginia's defense was awful in the first.
Oh yeah, not good.
Just looking at Baylor's 2 touchdown drives here, like 5 plays, 85 yards, 2 minutes, 32 seconds. Then 3 plays, 70 yards. Like it was bad. Baylor would literally West Virginia could drop 8 and Baylor would still be wide open 20 yards down the field. And Neil Brown, he admitted that it was bad, and you've got to, he admits that obviously, but he did say that it was kind of a bend don't break mentality, and they made the plays when they needed to, and that's what all he asked for is that defense to play hard. And I have to say, they never gave up. There was a lot of injuries on the back end. McCormick left, Ajayi left, Wilson Lamb got tossed. So a lot of moving pieces back there, and they were able to get the job done. For me, I like let's just go to the second half. Biggest play of the game is that block point after. Baylor looks like they're going to go back ahead by 7. You're going to be chasing 7 again, and at that point, it was to me it was more or less whose defense is going to get the first stop, right? And sure enough, you get the block point after attempt, then you get to go, and then you end up taking the lead because of that. That's a 3-point swing right there because you get the 2 and you save the 1, 2 plus 1, 3, obviously. Then you're up 40-37, and then you have the game won. Like you get an interception, 3 minutes left, go run the ball. Oh, wait, what happens? Procedure penalty, moves it back. You have to throw the ball, interception. Baylor gets another shot, ties the game up. Sure enough, it all ends well, but there was just so many ways West Virginia could have lost. I'm not trying to be negative because it's going to be a positive podcast, but still, like, a lot of things happened, and it was a crazy game. And West Virginia finally won a 1-score game, and they finally did it under Neal Brown, and they finally did it against a good quality opponent, not just a bad opponent.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I guess it was the fan coming out of me. I was on the field trying to just think of all the ways, the ways the Mountaineers could lose, and they ended up not doing it. And it was very bend don't break, like Neal said. To your point, though, you get that pick. Aubrey Burks. Somebody hit the quarterback. Burks gets the pick. 3 minutes to go. You want to wrap that game up.
There's 3:19.
But it was a little bit of a tough situation though, because you can't just line it up and run because Baylor had all 3 timeouts. So if it's run for nothing, timeout, run for nothing, timeout, run for nothing, timeout, Baylor gets the ball with a good chance to win. So you need to throw it, but to throw it on first down, and this is a bad read by JT. A very bend don't break mentality, and I think it worked out. I held them to 3, forced them into not even a chip shot field goal. But that Baylor kicker, he drilled it.
44-yarder. It was not a gimme. It was
not a chip shot. They didn't get it down to the 5-10 yard line and kick a field goal. I mean, forced him into a good field goal. Now he drilled it, but that put the ball back in the Mountaineers' hands with a tie game. And it's like, okay, now it's our game to win at that point. So I think if Baylor would have scored 7 after the Daniels interception, I think we might be out telling a different story. But glad it didn't go that way.
Yeah, for me, I mean, you say they don't have to run the ball, but I think the biggest storyline for tonight was the ability of West Virginia running the ball, because we talked about it at length earlier in the week. Was Baylor's run defense is really, really good. They were second in the Big 12. They were only allowing like 96 rush yards per game coming in. West Virginia ran the ball 37 times for 217 yards and 3 touchdowns. And on top of that, they did that without C.J. Donaldson, who arguably is the best back in that room. So Justin Johnson, he ran well, 12:48 for 1 touchdown. Tony Mathis, man, he had he's proven himself before, but if you want to talk about a coming out party on a big stage, national TV Thursday night against a really good team, that was tonight. He ran 22 times, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I never felt like he was making the wrong decision. There were times he'd go inside, cut outside, even though it's not an outside run. Go outside, cut back inside. And he was hard to tackle. That was the best thing I saw, was no one on West Virginia went down easily, whether it was Preston Fox, whether it was Caden Prather, who we'll get to later, or whether it was these running backs and Tony Mathis and Justin Johnson. No one on West Virginia went down easy tonight. And I think that fight and that kind of grit that you have as a team, it showed itself in a big way. And I think that's a really big positive moving forward into the rest of your schedule.
Yeah, they showed a lot of grit, and I'm really proud and happy for Tony. I mean, C.J. Donaldson's kind of had that coming out party this year. Kind of a different kind of running back. He's big, he's fast, he gets downhill. So with his injury, it was Tony's game, and he coughed the ball up against Virginia Tech. CJ's been really good, and Justin Johnson has shown flashes. So it's like he doesn't have much room for error, and he came out tonight and he proved that he can still take the workload. He hit the gaps today, fought through contact. Like you said, he made all the good reads, even if, maybe it wasn't designed to be a run outside. He cut it outside. His cut ability was good today. And he got downhill, and, you can't really, he didn't put the ball on the ground. He fought through contact. He really didn't do anything wrong tonight. And obviously it is a good run defense. I mean, we saw that when, you thought the game was over with 45 seconds to go, first goal from the 1, and Baylor, shuts the door. So they have a good run defense. Now they gave up 43, but, it's not easy for Tony to go out there and do that, especially, he's had a couple performances where he was kind of maybe the 2-back, when you talk about C.J. Donaldson, but I thought he had a phenomenal game tonight.
Yeah, the spotlight was on Tony tonight, and he knew it. Everyone knew it because everyone knew CJ wasn't going to play. It's not like there was a question mark of, oh, CJ might play. CJ's questionable. CJ's been like, everyone knew CJ is not playing tonight. So the pressure was on Tony, the eyes were on Tony, and he rose to the occasion big time. And the offense as a whole, outside of the 2 procedure penalties, outside of the interception, this offense played extremely well, I think. I think like 43 points against that defense, that's not an easy task. Okay, 7 of them were from your defense, but it's like still like 35 plus against that team. That's really, really good. And like if you want to talk measuring stick, Baylor just won the Big 12 championship last year, and you just beat them at your place after getting just run out the building last year in Waco. So I know it's not you're not 4-2, you're not 5-1, you're not 6-0 right now, but you're in your 3-3. But if this offense can do what they did tonight and be as complementary to each other with running the ball and passing the ball, they've got some winnable games down the stretch. And I think this team knows that. Neil Brown said, we've now won 3 out of our last 4. And I think that's a really good way to put it. I think that you could think to yourself, oh my goodness, sky's falling, they're 3-3. But then you think about it, they lost to Pitt, they lost to Kansas. But since then, they've kind of turned the page, won 3 of 4, beaten Baylor, beaten Virginia Tech on the road. Texas, they just wasn't meant to be, but Texas is a really good football team, as we also outlined earlier in the week. So West Virginia, moving forward, they've got opportunities. Texas Tech, they're beatable, and they can beat them on the road. But what's been the one big issue for Neil Brown? Winning big-time games on the road. And he's got the 1 Power 5 win against Virginia Tech this year. So that's out of the way. So they've got to keep that going, keep this momentum, because I think they're playing with some confidence, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they've won 3 out of their last 4. I agree with you. Completely led by the offense outside of a couple of defensive plays. And let's not forget. I mean, Baylor's head coach Dave Aranda, he's done a great job since he's got there. But he was the defensive coordinator at LSU. Wasn't he on the national championship team? I mean, he's a defensive kind of mastermind a little bit. I know the Big 12 isn't known for playing defense, and they gave up 43 tonight. But maybe that's a credit to the WVU offense. I mean, there's some bad defenses historically in the Big 12, but over the last couple of years, I don't think Baylor's one of them. That's a good coaching staff over there, and to put up 43 on that staff is pretty impressive. And I think that should give them some momentum going into Texas Tech, because they know that Texas Tech, if you're looking historically, they're a team that's going to be able to throw the ball, spread you out, and score points. But maybe you got a shot against their defense, and so it's a road game. Brown historically, since coming here, has not done well on the road, but I think they know that, even if the defense bends a little bit, the offense has the experience, talent, and now they have the confidence to, kind of be in a game where they got to score more than, 28, 35, and, they're going to need to put up 40 to win a game. We saw that tonight.
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about Neil Brown and then kind of what he had to say after. We talked and we said this was a must-win game for Neil Brown, just because you got to win these games. You can't be 0-3 in your conference 2 years in a row. So they've got their first Big 12 win. They've got a big-time home win. And Neil Brown, I think this might be top 2 or 3 games he has coached at West Virginia. I think that Iowa State game last year was a really good coaching performance. But just because of how back and forth, how it was blow for blow the whole entire night. And Neil hung in there. Neil didn't shy away. He went for it a couple times when you had to go for it and you didn't get it. And he was like, he lived with it. And I think the biggest thing and the biggest critique that we have had of Neil Brown is that he doesn't stick to his gun sometimes. And tonight he stuck with what is best, and that is his offense. He trusts his offense. His offense won him the game. And truth be told, he's been saying the defense is there, the defense is there, the defense is working hard. And sure enough, that hard work finally came through and they pulled it off.
Yeah, it's good to see that he did trust his offense. I mean, I thought it was a little frustrating. Obviously the Pitt game, there's a couple good touchdown passes. I thought he should have trusted the offense there, but I think he does have more confidence and trust in that offense. Obviously he's not going to talk down the defense. He's going to talk them up, but you can't, you can't put the game in the defensive hands. You can't put it in the hands of the secondary and say, hey, go win another one-on-one matchup and win us the game. You got to put the game in the offense's hands, especially in a game, where you got to score 43 to win. JT Daniels is an experienced quarterback. We have an experienced wide receiver group and Sam James, Bryce Ford Wheaton, and now second year with Caden Prather, super talented there. Experienced running back in Tony Mathis and an experienced line. So it is good to see him trust his guns there. Obviously, earlier in the game when he went for it on 4th and 1, absolutely the right call. Maybe the play design was not the right call. Maybe should have gone with a bootleg or something like that, something less predictable. But I'm glad that he went for it, regardless. So that's good to see. And when you get into games against, teams where you're gonna have to, really, really work to outscore your opponent, probably TCU, probably Kansas State and Texas Tech on the road. We're going to need to see more of that, especially in games where it's being decided by 3 points, 6 points, 7 points, 10 points, and so on.
Yeah, I thought the biggest fourth downs weren't West Virginia's. I thought it was Baylor's. Baylor, that one drive, it was that drive in the third quarter where Shaping ended up getting hurt and exiting, and they went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 35. And we knew that. We knew they wanted to go for it going in. I thought it was a little aggressive at that point in time, especially
with the backup too.
They weren't. So on the 4th and 1, they had the starter in, and then at the 4th, and then on the 4th and goal from the 2 is when the backup was in. So the 4th and 1 I thought was a little aggressive. The 4th and 2 I lived with more because you would have had West Virginia backed up all the way at their 2 if you don't get it. So I understand that, but let's give credit where credit is due. Baylor's starting quarterback, Blake Shapen, he had to exit in the third quarter, but Karan Drones, their backup, man, he balled. He kept them in that game. Yeah, I think you kind of just got to go down with that sack instead of throwing that interception late, and we can be critical of him all we want, but for coming into that environment where both teams are trading scores, you're a backup and you got to come in, and he continues to score. I was impressed with his performance, and I think also that says something about the West Virginia defense. Baylor was picking apart West Virginia. Yards per play, I don't have the stat right in front of me. Yeah, average yards per play. Baylor got 8.2 yards per play. It seemed like you'd look up and that 12 yards here, 18 yards there, 46 yards. It was not a pretty day for the West Virginia defense, but it doesn't have to be pretty when you get the plays made. And I'll talk about that. And that is the big theme was after the game was the ball bounced West Virginia's way. And there's been a ton of times this year, whether it's the pit pass, which seems like a century ago, whether it's Kansas, just the guy jumping the route, or Reese Smith dropping the punt. Preston Fox dropped the punt, he was able to pick it up. That's a story for another day. Special teams is an issue, it feels like, especially on your kickoff unit and your punt unit. Casey Legg's phenomenal. We'll get to him in a minute. But, yeah, balls bouncing their way. Fumbles, both of them bounced their way. The first one, West Virginia would have gotten it either way. But the second one, he fumbled it, and there were 3 West Virginia guys and a couple Baylor dudes, and West Virginia was able to get it. So things like that. That's kind of what makes or breaks some of these wins or losses, and West Virginia finally was on the good side of it for what feels like the first time in a while.
Yeah, it's about time. It feels like all the breaks kind of go towards the other team. Even if the WVU defense forces a fumble, it's usually picked up, and if they get a turnover, they turn it right back over. So it's good to see the ball bounce in the Mountaineers' favor. But I don't want to label this game as a lucky win or something like that. Obviously, I don't think you were saying that, but down to the last drive, 43-40, Baylor's trying to make a desperation plea. There's a first down, second down, third down, and then it gets to fourth down. They convert the fourth down, but there's zeros on the clock. That first down, second down, third down, I had a pretty good view of it. Man, Dante Stills got in there, and he made his presence felt. He was held on first down, nothing called. Held on second down and third down, nothing called. And he didn't get the sack, didn't get a tackle for loss. But man, he forced 2 throwaways and a little 5-yard completion. Those are stuff that doesn't really show up on the stat sheet. And maybe that's unfortunate for an NFL prospect like Dante. But man, that's where the WVU defense really earned it. And I think guys on the line, especially Dante, but Taj Alston, Lockhart, they made their presence felt towards the end. So they had some bounces, but they didn't play great as a defense as a whole, but I think they deserved it when it was all said and done.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, if you like, when there was more pressure on the backup, but I think it wasn't because of something West Virginia was doing. I think Shapen had more of that internal clock that you talk about with quarterbacks, and he got the ball out, he'd throw it away, or he'd get rid of the ball. Drones, he didn't get rid of the ball as quickly as Shapen would, and he had a tendency, I felt like, to hold it longer and try and make something happen. And I think that was the biggest difference with West Virginia being able to get to the quarterback. And talking about big time plays, like out of every single kickoff return tonight, there was one West Virginia was able to return, and it was on the very last drive after Baylor ties it up. And Jeremiah Aaron probably is the best kickoff return we've seen from any West Virginia guy this year. Besides, yeah, that's the best one. Yeah, that's crazy. And he returned it to the 34. So, yeah, like that's just a player making a play in a big moment in a big spot when you haven't been asked to all day. Jeremiah Aaron also had a big catch. Like there were guys' names being called who you weren't really used to being called. Reese Smith across the middle went up there and looked like he was Odell Beckham Jr. Like Preston Fox had a couple grabs. All these guys were making plays, and it was a really good team win. And West Virginia deserved to win. West Virginia played hard, and they got the win. And I think that's the best part is they've been knocking on the door so many times. They finally were able to kick the door down, and they got the win they needed.
Yeah, they did. They kicked it down, and it's a group effort. And like I said in our preview, I mean, we talked a lot about the secondary and how they hadn't been good, but you need your leaders to lead, and obviously that can go to the offensive line. But I was really talking about some of the veteran defensive linemen, really talking about Dante, and he had been kind of quiet. Taj Alston, Jordan Jefferson since the Virginia Tech, in the Texas game. They didn't show me much, so that's kind of what I was playing for, is for the leaders to lead. And I think they did that, and it was very good to see some of the younger guys get their name called. Jeremiah Aaron, that was a big time kick return. I really didn't know he ran it back to the 34. I didn't have a very good angle of it, but I knew the crowd was cheering pretty loud, so I figured he got it past the 25. But that's big time field possession, especially when every second, every minute counts, because you're under 3 minutes at that point, under 2 minutes. So that's big.
There was like a minute 30 left at that point. Yeah,
that's big. Good to see Reese Smith get that catch. Like I said, even when we're kind of criticizing him for what he was doing receiving punts, I just don't think he's a good punt returner. But I still said, you can line him up as receiver. I think he's good for a little third down play every now and then, and he's a good part of that receiving core. Just don't line him up for punts. So I thought that was a big play. Preston Fox, they picked up that flag. I don't think they should have picked up that flag. And he catches another ball, the next play. So it's good to see, new guys get their number called. And I think as the season goes on, as there's more injuries, more people are going to have to step up. And, that's what you need out of a big Power 5 program. That's why you recruit.
My favorite stat from tonight is that there were 0 drops. 0.
That's hard to believe.
0 drops. And, let's talk about one more receiver, Caden Prather. Oh, my
man.
God. He is turning into a man right before our eyes. Go back and watch that. He made hard catch after hard catch. That touchdown, he got smacked around at the 10, kept his balance, spun around 10. He's a true sophomore. If he is still here in 2 years and he's a senior, look out, because he could be dangerous. Game balls, you got anything else before you want to get there? Oh, Casey Legg. Casey Legg kicked the walk-off field goal, and that's got to feel good for him. He's kind of been under the radar this year. He hasn't really been asked to do much. Part of that's because they've been scoring so many touchdowns, so he kind of just has to come in and kick the point after. But he had to kick a couple big-time field goals tonight, and he did that. He's been pretty reliable. I'd say he's the most reliable kicker since Josh Lambert. That was way back in 2014. So it's been almost a decade, and Casey Legg's the dude. He's a great guy, and I'm happy to see him succeed tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see. He's from Cross Lanes, West Virginia, right up the road from where I'm from. So it's good to see that. Like you said, he's flown under the radar. Just his number hasn't been called that much, just simply because, if it's a 4th and 1, there's a chance you're going for it. And, JT Daniels, Price Ford Wheaton and company, they find the end zone a good bit. So his number hasn't been called, but, he I don't think he felt any pressure there. if they wouldn't have had that big run, I would have been confident in KC from 40 plus. But thankfully, it didn't come down to that.
Yeah, Casey's the man, and he's the man on the field, off the field, just like a great overall guy. And when great guys do great things, it's awesome to see. Game balls, because it's 1 a.m. in the morning. Let's get to it. For me, I'm gonna go Tony Mathis, obviously, and then I'm gonna go defense. Jacoby Spells, man, like he's just gotten his hands on footballs when big time plays have had to be made, and he did that against Virginia Tech. He did that again tonight. I'm gonna give him one. Aubrey Burks, big time interception, and then Jasir Cox, the 2 fumble recoveries, and then Caden Prather, obviously, because he looked like he just looked different out there, and I was happy to see that. So those are my guys.
Yeah, I want to go Caden Prather, 11 for what, 108 or something like that, 109, and a touchdown. But man, he's had it going for a couple games now. I think the real game ball for me, I got to give it to Tony Mathis. I mean, 163 with 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's been hard for him to find the end zone. Like I said earlier, CJ Donaldson's really burst on the scene, and his number hasn't been caught as much. And when it has, he's kind of he put the ball on the ground against Virginia Tech. Justin Johnson has shown his talent, but man, this was his game to go out there and maybe prove some naysayers wrong, and really show that he can be that workload back. And without his performance tonight, it's hard to get that 43 points. And Justin Johnson played a good game, but Tony Mathis, man, he's my guy tonight. Some big plays on the defensive side, but I'm going to give one game ball out.
I think seeing the way Tony Mathis ran too, it helps not having to then put CJ Donaldson in too many stressful situations. You don't have to throw a guy that was just knocked out in Austin, Texas 2 weeks ago. You don't have to put him back in the game right away. So like you can play him, but you don't have to give him the heavy workload that he was getting prior to the injury. So that's good for everyone involved. Hopefully CJ's back. All signs point to it, I believe. That'll be good for this team. But for now, like, enjoy this one, West Virginia. You deserved it. You played really, really well. Offense played great. Defense stepped up. I mean, you can't give up 600 yards every Saturday, but you did what you had to do, and I think that's all you can ask sometimes. And if the ball bounced their way tonight, so be it. And they got this win. So that's all from us. We will be back with a Texas Tech preview probably on Tuesday or Wednesday. If you made it this far, we do appreciate you listening. Happy birthday to my guy, Aaron, who is turning 21 this weekend. Congratulations, my guy.
Thank you. Celebrating with a win.
Yep, had to give him the shout out. So think of him as he turns 21, and maybe someone can buy you a drink this weekend, Aaron. So that's all from us on this now Friday. And West Virginia wins 43-40. Casey Legg does it. Mountaineers do it at home Thursday night. And what was a wild game against Baylor. 1-2, 3-3. It'll play. So thank you for listening. I'm Wes Shoemaker, joined by Aaron Parker. This is the Blue Gold Sports Podcast.